Okay, this one's going to be a story about me. I'm a little bit lost. Never thought I'd be here. 2,500 Ks. 5 years of trying to work out where I am and what's going on, and what's eventuated, what's happened. There's no sense to it. I've never worked it out.
He was really protective with Carl and has been all his life.
Every year I was 1 year younger and had the same toy as Brad did, so it always made us very, very competitive.
Tell you what year it was, a long time ago. I met Brad through Level 2 skate park on the central coast of New South Wales. Brad was basically running the whole show there. I rocked up for a skate and just got talking, and next thing you know, we formed a great friendship from that one meet. It's a very localised scene at Level 2. Pretty much the same group of guys nearly every day skating there. Just skating, more skating. I guess you could say the influence I got from Brad was that Brad was a really diverse skateboarder. He didn't just stick to one thing. He liked to, he liked to try everything.
As a person, Brad always struck me as highly motivated and driven. He was always pushing his skateboarding to another level, and as a person in general, he was extremely professional with the way he conducted himself at the skate park. It didn't matter who came in, he treated them with the same courtesy as everybody else.
It didn't matter who you were, what you did. Once you walked inside Level 2, you were part of Level 2, and Brad made you feel welcome, and plus he had an exceptionally large back tattoo, which I hadn't had any tattoos at the time, and, back in those days I was a bit younger, and anyone with a giant tattoo I thought was pretty cool.
mid-90s. So at a little indoor skate park upstairs at Toukley that a surf shop owner was running. Neither of us really knew him at the time, but so we started hanging around and giving him ideas and helping him out a little bit, and eventually it moved and he asked me to come and run the place for him. And we opened up in Tuggerah in a 500 square metre shed, and Brad was always involved on I think first up, like a volunteer level, but then one of the staff left and Brad moved in, and basically it was me and him running as a team, and that, some great times. So, yeah, and, he was, I think, a few years younger than me, maybe 7 or 8 years younger than me. But we still had that, surfing, skating background, so we could relate, because he was a good surfer when he was younger, apparently, before I met him. And it was a bit of a reintroduction to skateboarding for him. I think he'd missed out a little bit, and it was good for him to get back on it. Yeah, look, Brad and me got on really well as a team that worked together to get things done. And we didn't realise till probably 18 months after we'd been working together that we actually shared the same birthday. So even though we're a few years apart, it's still, same birthday, 27th of July. And we're just, your birthday? Yeah, I'm having a party. Oh, it's my birthday too. So we had a skate party or whatever, Yeah, we just, it was always, working together to put the comps and keep things changing and moving with live bands and building the ramps. And, Brad used to travel a long way from Curry to get to level 2 and spend, we used to leave there close at 10, leave at 11:30, we might have had a skate after work or whatever, and then he'd head home and he'd be back the next day, ready to open at 10 o'clock with me and all that sort of stuff. But it moved through some, it was only there for 2.5 years. I mean, it seemed like a long time, but it was really a short time. And, we were always trying to make improvements, and money was always, building ramps is an expensive thing. And, just being able to do what we thought the place needed to do, because the owner was not a skateboarder. We used to have to try and direct things the way we wanted to run them, which was pretty loose. We used to get away with a lot of stuff. But, we didn't have a entertainment license in those days, but we used to put, 3 or 4 bands on and have demos and hundreds of people showing up and the police and...
Old school jam, bands on the roof. That's Brian Jacobson, Queenslander. Funny. The old days.
Yeah, it sort of went to a bit of funny ending. The owner disappeared for a while, and so we were sort of running it skeleton sort of wise, because he was sort of off doing whatever, midlife crisis sort of stuff. So, and it actually got dragged, the business got dragged into receivership with that was tied to a surf shop. And unfortunately, that got a little bit scary, because, we weren't going to get paid. We weren't going to get that holiday pay that was owed to us and all this sort of stuff. But we battled through that, and it eventually got sort of sorted out and out on its own. Yeah, and so, everything was going along well until the owner sort of decided to do things his way, which he thought was a better way than what I was sort of maintaining. And so I sort of got the flick from there, and things went downhill quite quick without the actual staff members knowing what was going on. Rent didn't get paid, locks were changed. All of a sudden, there was no level 2 skate park, so overnight it sort of disappeared.
You know what? After it's all said and done, I don't think level 2 would have been level 2 without Bradley Sterritt. That guy, he just put in endless hours of work. He opened, he closed, he cleaned, he served, he maintained, he built boards for customers. He done it all. I take my hat off to Brad and what he did for level 2. And
when my dad died, it was shock. It happened so quick. He was there 1 minute and I seen him, the next minute he was gone. It was just one of those things. Just left school. Thought I was going to start in the new job. Then, yeah, instantly that all changed.
Dad passed away when we were around the 18 years old. It affected me very, very, very hard. My dad was my hero. And to have your hero taken when you're just sort of coming into the man stage of life, very hard to do. It took me a long time to get over it. Yeah, a lot of struggles. A lot of struggles when you're a kid and that happens. Brad seemed to take it a little bit better than what I did. Brad being the older brother, he's always looked after me, so a lot of the time he's taken the pain where I've just missed out, so that has been good. Yeah, Brad's the type of person that's always been the first one there to help people, first one to do things for everybody, and then at the end of the day he seems to end up with nothing. We've both been like that our whole lives. We've been helpers, which is good for your satisfaction, but not good for getting things done, because you always seem to get everyone else's stuff done, and there's no time for your stuff. This place seems to be really good for Brad. It's a bit of a calming environment. Not a lot of people here. Doesn't go real good with people anymore. Made him focus on a bit more on what he needs to focus on, which is him and not everyone else.
Mate, when he moved to Cairns, I just thought, you know what, only Brad could do things like that, you know, like at the drop of a hat, Brad would do what Brad wanted to do. And I really didn't think, what I knew of Brad, I didn't think he would ever move to that part of Australia, you know. I always thought Brad would be someone who would be close to concrete for the rest of his life so he could ride his skateboard every single day, not living in a rainforest at the top end of Australia, you know.
Ready for a swim?
A bit chilly in the water hole, but beautiful. A bit deeper than what it looks out there. A lot deeper.
Peace and tranquility. Only place to live.
This mountain holds a lot of gold. A lot of it got taken out back in the days, and a lot of it is very inaccessible. One of the locals came down here and walked over the path there coming down for a swim and found a nug the size of your thumbnail sitting right down in the corner. So every now and again you'll get a piece that will just float down the river and wash up here and wash in there. But back in the day there was a 17-foot thick reef of gold down on this mountain. So it's still all up there somewhere. Just a matter of getting up there and getting it out.
And I didn't see Brad for a while. He was, because you guys were into, you'd built the off-road, we got into the off-road boards a little bit, and you built an off-road luge, I remember. I thought it was crazy. But Brad actually took that on board a little bit further and went into the racing scene with the luge, which I didn't really know what he'd gone off and done that, because I'd sort of lost contact with him after the park closed down. And I just I had a young family, and I was just trying to work out what I was going to do again, and got back into my drafting and designing, and got into skate park design. But also I took the off-road direction and got into a bit of mountain boarding and off-road boarding. And we had a park built up here at San Remo with jumps and big air stuff and a border cross track. So we used to race that and have events, and people come from all over. Not a big crew, quite underground. And Brad was off doing the downhill and a bit of downhill, but mainly luge. And for a guy his size, he was really good at it. He just had the brain for it, for racing and knowing where to be on the track and how to maximise his speed and all that.
So yeah, after the skate park closed, that was sort of it for the skating for a little while. Kept it underground. Still kept riding the off-road boards. We ride these off-road boards with big chunky wheels, and a lot of fun. You can ride them on BMX parks and skate and down grass hills and over rocks. And while we've been up the bush motorbike riding, we've been looking for some good spots to jump on these off-road boards and go for a run.
When Brad started racing, that, to me, that was something that completely came out of the blue. Like, I had no idea Brad was so passionate about downhill racing and luge, and being pretty much at the time predominantly just a street skater, the closest thing I got to going fast was bombing the occasional hill. So I found it quite exciting that Brad wanted to pursue, downhill racing and luging, and once again, that was another thing that made me look at the wider world of what skateboarding was and not just street skating.
I met Brad at slalom events. Every time we went to a slalom event, Brad was there. So, I met all the street lugers there. We didn't have any street luging or downhill racing then. It was just all slalom racing. So, every time we went to one of those events, he would show up, and, we became good mates. Every time we saw each other, we'd have a high five and, talk about the last time we met. Yeah. Well, he was always there. He's older school than me, so he knew more stuff about old school stuff, and, he was always tricking his skateboard around, and, whereas I just had a good setup, and I'd just go and try and race. Oh, everyone knew Brad, Brad was big in the street luge scene, so, there was no separation in the beginning between downhill and street luge. Everyone was just, we all gelled together. And then it was only after the first Newtons that a lot of the slalom guys saw what was going on in the downhill scene, and they wanted to be part of it, and a lot of them chose downhill skating. Brad did his street luge, but he did compete in a few of the downhill smaller events. He's been around since day one, as far as I'm concerned. Since I started racing, he's always been there, and always look forward to catching up with him. He has a lot of knowledge in the street luge scene, and when I was just playing around at certain events, he gave me a few tips, and they weren't big events, but got me on the podium. So I was pretty happy and grateful towards his help in that area.
Watching a way to breathe again.
The first luge we ever rode is a story in itself. We were big fans of the 411 video series, and after seeing Lance Mountain do an intro on a wooden street luge riding down the street, I had to build one. I made one in a bit of a hurry. It was screwed together, it was twisted, it was terrible. I surprised Brad with it when he came and saw me in Sydney. We went and tested it at Surrey Hills Grass Ski Park, and when the handle came off, Brad took the skin off his knuckles. But it inspired us to build a better one, and within a couple of weeks, version 2.0 was up and running, and it was pretty good. I took it back to Adelaide with me, and we got some footage from an old video camera strapped to the back of a bike. Brad came down to Adelaide for a couple of tattoo shows, and after riding that one, it wasn't long before he went home to Newcastle, and he was building proper aircraft aluminium luges and racing with the best in Australia.
While most of us are sleeping in on weekends, thrill seeker Craig Mears and his mates go looking for their next adrenaline fix.
Here in Australia we get up to anything up to about 110, 120 at the most, I'd say. Not insane at all, quite sane.
As a racer, as a rider, was there anything that made Brad stand out?
Brad's riding style was very unique, and he was very competitive, very talented, competent rider. I don't know how he is in the recent years because I haven't ridden competitively or even socially for a long time. Just had other priorities in my life, and I've still got all my gear. Won't give that up. No way. It's a very big part of my life.
There's nothing that gives you the shot of adrenaline that this does.
Getting back to the question, Brad was a very competent rider. He was, talented up there in at least the top 20.
Racing against, he said he was once ranked 5th in the world.
Well, yeah, at one stage he was 5th, I was 9th. That was only for a very short time while the rest of the racing season went on, and we didn't get to races to accumulate the points. Being stuck in Australia, most of the points were accumulated overseas by other riders, so it knocked us out of the rankings pretty quick once other races got going. But yeah, there's been high achievements, definitely.
You think he would have done really well if he'd have got to race overseas?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. He would have raced, very proficiently against international riders. When international riders came to Australia, he kicked their ass. Pure and simple.
I think he wanted to go, but I think there were too many negatives in his way.
The consequences of your actions, how things start out so simply and easily and end so badly.
And never recovered. He lost his life, essentially skating.
Hardest phone call I've ever had to take in my life, bar none.
So I'm going to have to stop the interview for a sec.